beautiful friends. It's Amanda here, and today I'm doing another book-inspired BYOP. This is where I build an eyeshadow palette that's inspired by the cover art and sometimes the story as well, but usually really focused on the cover art of a book that I've recently enjoyed. I have done a couple of these. I've done a lot of build your own palettes inspired by many, many different things. My most recent book-inspired build your own palette was this video right here, inspired by a book called My Roommate is a Vampire. The book that's inspiring today's palette is called A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. It's written by Sarah Hawley. This is what the cover looks like. I'm going to show you the process of building my palette. I'll show you what the palette looks like all swatched out, and then I'll show you two different eye looks that I'm wearing right now using the palette that I built. I used almost every single color in my palette for these two looks. I think I only missed one eyeshadow, so really not too shabby. But before I get to the tutorials, I have to build the palette first, so let's start there.
First thing we need when we're building a palette is an empty magnetic palette. I'm using this little 12 pan size from ColourPop, and I will be selecting single shadows from across my singles collection. So for today's video, you're going to see single eyeshadows from ColourPop, Sydney Grace, and Tara Moons. Those are some of my favorites. As I go through and select shades for my book-inspired palette, I really focus on not just capturing the color story from the cover, but I also want to curate the shades, the depths, tones, finishes in a way that the palette is actually going to be functional, that I'm going to be able to get a lot of useful eye looks that I actually like and actually would want to wear. This means that I often try to have close to an even split between mattes and shimmers. And just out of personal preference, I don't include pressed glitters in my palettes because I don't like them, so I don't see those as functional shades for me. Aside from making sure that I have a wide variety of colors in both matte and shimmer finishes, I also want to make sure that I have a decent variety of depth, which means I personally like to include light, medium, and deep shades because I like the contrast of those types of shades in my own personal eye look, so I need them when I make a palette. I find that overall, when I have a split of mattes and shimmers, and I also have a range of depth in tone, that I end up getting the most use value out of a palette that I've curated because I can get a lot of different looks that I actually really like and feel true to my style of makeup and my aesthetic, regardless of what the colors are. So that all is leading up to me giving you this advice. If you decide to build your own palette, make sure that you have a good variety of finishes, especially focus on what ratio you like. I like close to a 50-50 split mattes and shimmers. You may find that you're more inspired by more shimmers, or you may find that you prefer to have a heavily matte palette. So keep that in mind when you're pulling the shades. Don't just think about I'm matching the color to the cover of this book, but think about, do I have enough depth in this palette? Or perhaps am I pulling too many dark colors if you're somebody that doesn't like to wear a lot of dark eyeshadow? You really want to make a well-rounded experience for yourself, and it's only going to turn out that way if you don't simply straight translate the colors, but really think about how you like to wear your eyeshadow, what you like to put on your eyes and wear day to day. Once you start to take all of those factors into account, you're going to start coming up with eyeshadow palettes that aren't just beautiful or aren't just matching your inspo, but are really fun to use and maybe will become your new favorite palette. I also want to kind of mention here that some of the singles I'm using may no longer be available. And for me, these videos aren't so much about trying to convince you that you need to go out and buy all these singles, but more giving you the idea, the how, the why of the creation of these palettes and really to encourage you to use what you have on hand. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm using shades that I already have. You can take shadows out of existing palettes, or if you don't want to actually take apart your palettes, then you can just pull some of the shades from palettes and assemble the palette on your arm with swatches. You have the power to reimagine the makeup that you already have in your collection, and it's really fun to draw from new sources of inspiration. So I just want to encourage you to have fun experimenting with the things that you already have. And hey, you may find a shadow in here that is exactly what you've been looking for, and that is great. That's icing on the cake. But the point is really to teach you how I build my palettes and why I do it the way I do, so that you can recreate some of this magic at home with your own shadows, hopefully. I have to say, I love the way that this palette turned out. I think it does a really great job of pulling from the colors in the book cover. I think it matches the book cover really well. But most importantly, I think that this color story just flows so beautifully. I love purple. I love green. I think that this little yellow, gold, and silver addition on the front end here really adds a new twist to the purple and green combo that I personally love and am drawn towards all the time. I love how the Now and Zen shade has a little bit of that shifting yellowy gold, so it kind of gets a nod to those yellows without being too on the nose. And I love the way that this sparkly black shade called Night Dream gives that magical fantasy, a witch is in love with a demon kind of vibe that I'm going for. Typically, I don't love mattes with shimmer in them, but in this case, in the context of this palette, I think it just makes a lot of sense. I'm going to start creating some eye looks now because my palette isn't just for funsies. It is actually created to be used. I'm going to start with this Sydney Grace shade called Geese Laying, and I'm going to put some of that bright yellow matte shade into the crease area. I'm not being too precise with this because I am going to blend and layer some green and some gold on top, but I just want that nice base layer down first, and I want to make sure that this stays bright. I don't want it to go too murky once I bring in this sort of olivey mid-tone green. It's not quite brown enough to be a true olive, but it's definitely not a grassy green either. I love this green shadow called Mi Gente from Terra Moons. It's one of my favorite greens in my collection, and I will take any excuse to use it. It's such a beautiful formula. I love the way that it works with this bright yellow. It brings out the brightness. If I pair it with neutrals, it can go even more of a khaki green color. And the formulation is just so intense. I barely have to use any of it. I didn't even have to reapply to my brush here. I just used what was left on there from the initial application to just blend and smudge a little bit. Then I wanted to add some shimmer. I have some beautiful shimmers in this palette, starting first with the single shadow from ColourPop called Baby Lights. I piled that over the majority, probably the inner 2/3 of my eyelid. And then I'm gonna go with this more greenish toned. It's a very similar color, but this is deeper and more green, Hot Spiced Cider from Terra Moons. And I'm gonna use that to connect to the darker green matte shade. And then I just went back in and layered that over a little bit. I didn't want to lose the depth and the tone of that green on the outer corner there. Then I added just a little bit of this cream gel liner from ColourPop called Wildcat. This is a sort of greenish gold shade in that lower waterline area. And I used a little bit of Now and Zen to highlight on the brow bone and just a bit on the inner corner as well. This shade can be very soft if you just apply a little bit, but it can go bright really quickly. So I was very careful with that one. And then I used just a little bit of the Baby Lights shade to sort of connect the inner corner and the smudginess on the lower lash line and draw all of that color in with the waterline liner. I feel like I explained that really badly. Hopefully, it made sense when you paired it with the visual. But that is my first green and yellow look. Next, I want to do something really purpley and smoky, just a completely different vibe, but I feel like it still really fits the tone of the book. First, I'm applying the shade Howlin' all over that transition area down onto the lid. I'm using a big fluffy eye brush from Singe Beauty to do this because I want a lot of this color laid down. I'm going to be layering and creating a sort of smoky ombre effect, so I need a really strong base for that. The next step in this smoky purple ombre is to take the shade Silver Lining and working my way from my lash line up towards where I applied that Howlin' shade. I'm just gently patting that on. I'm going to go back and forth quite a bit with these colors to make sure that I have a smooth, seamless transition and a lot of really good coverage over the eye. I don't want it to go too thin or patchy looking because that's going to destroy this smoky illusion look that I'm going to start building up. So next, I'm taking the shade Royal and just a little tiny bit at a time, I'm working my way from the lash line back up towards the crease again, but I'm decreasing the pressure as I move upwards so that the darkest color is deposited closest to my lash line. And again, I'm just going to really gently pat, layer, and blend. And then the final sort of step in this ombre application is taking a little bit of that Night Dream shade just very, very close to the lash line and packing that black shadow on there so that we get a very deep to dark to medium to light fade up as we move up towards the brow. Honestly, I think this looks great as an all matte look, but I can never stop myself from adding shimmer. I just love shimmery eyeshadows so much. So I'm taking a little bit of this purple shimmer shade called Totally Worth It and tapping that on the very, very inner part of the lid there for just a little bit of shine. Then using this gorgeous silver, this is one of my favorite silver eyeshadows of all time, on a whimsy, and with a very small flat detail brush, I'm applying that to the inner part of my lower lash line. And I'm also going to add a little bit of that to the very, very inner part of my lid there so that we get a nice bright pop of highlight on that inner corner area. Then I curled my lashes and added the L'Oreal Panorama Mascara to both eyes. And that's my finished look. I think for this purple smoky look, I definitely could add a little half lash, maybe a little dark purple smoky eyeliner to tightline and waterline if I wanted to go full vampy. But I absolutely love the way that it is just more toned down like this. Both of these eye looks are 100% me. They are totally looks that I would wear. Maybe the yellow one more for day and the purple more for night. But I absolutely love both of these. I can't pick a favorite, but I would love to hear which one you're more drawn to.
I always have a lot of fun with my BYOP videos, and this little mini series, I don't know if we can really call it a series yet. I don't know if I've done enough videos to call this particular book-inspired BYOP a series yet. This little pseudo series combines so many things that I love. I'm an avid reader. I often have my favorite books in my monthly favorites, and obviously I love makeup. I have a makeup channel, but I really particularly love curating and building my own palette color stories. I'm an eyeshadow palette fiend. I'm a book lover. So these videos just make a lot of sense and are so much fun for me. I hope that you enjoy them too. I would love to hear what books you want to see next in this series or what else you want to see inspire some palettes here on the channel because I always love to hear what you think about things too. So make sure you leave all your thoughts your favorite books, which eye look you liked the best, your favorite eyeshadows, just really anything. Leave whatever you want in the comments down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Yet, but it combines, man, get it together. Did I use all of these? Yes, 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 yes. Mm, this is the one that I didn't use. And I only used a little bit of some of them, but it's close enough. I could have slapped some of that green one on there just to round it out, I guess. This really matte, vampy purple eyeshadow it's doing something for me. I like both. I don't think I have a favorite. I definitely can see myself wearing both of these looks. It's raining and thunderstorming, so if you hear Maggie crying in the background, she's been so stressed out. She hates thunderstorms. Mhm. Mm. Okay, did I do everything? Did I say everything? Oh, my neighbor's here. Dang it, I gotta wipe off this eyeshadow. All right, gotta go. Wish me luck. Okay, love your face. Love your face. Bye. Update. My sweet elderly neighbor just had to come by to drop something off real quick. And when I tell you I answered the door looking like this, they probably think I'm insane. I guess no is a better way to phrase it. Uh, so, I put the hoodie on because it's raining, but I could see the realization dawning over his face when he looked at me and he was like, I could see him look me in the eyes and register that I had two different eyeshadow eyes. And, you know, bless him. He didn't say a thing, but I saw the double take. I knew it was coming. Probably not helped by the fact that when we first moved in here, the first time that I met the majority of I can't stress this enough. Everybody here is old. My very old, sweet Southern neighbors. I was walking Maggie wearing yoga pants, a giant Hocus Pocus t-shirt, and super long dangly earrings with jack-o'-lanterns on them, and it was August. And I knew that they thought I was crazy then, and now I feel like I'm confirming it. But anyway, I just wanted to give you that update so that you could laugh with me. And yeah, I love your faces again. I'll see you next time again. Okay. Bye again. Bye.